Hello everybody, Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a really cool deck centered around Vileplume, not the Allergy Pollen one that locks items, but instead the Allergy Panic one from Boundaries Crossed, which basically makes a weakness instead of 2 times, 4 times. Now, before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It helps us out a lot and lets us do more for you guys. And before I get into the question of the day, I realize that it has been officially a year since I began playing the TCG and released my first deck video. I mean, I think I missed it by like a week and a half or something like that, but either way, I have now officially been playing the trading card game for a year, and that got me wondering, how long have you guys been playing if you're actually playing it and not just watching this video for fun, which there is absolutely nothing wrong if you're watching it for fun. I encourage you guys to do that and enjoy the content that I'm trying to bring you guys. But if you have been playing the TCG, how long have you been playing it? And really, what is your fondest memory of it? Really, mine would have to be the time that I was able to make my first Mega Rayquaza deck. That is because when I first started out in the TCG, well, on TCGO anyway, as I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way, in that I didn't have really any cards at all. I felt like my collection was incredibly lacking. I was barely able to build a deck to save my life. And Mega Rayquaza was the first deck that I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to strive for. This is the deck that I want to be able to build, because it was heavily centered on EXs. It involved 4 Shaymin, and Shaymin have just gotten more and more expensive since then. But either way, that was my goal, and my favorite moment as a TCG player was being able to completely build and play with that deck. So how long have you guys been playing, and what is your fondest memory of the TCG? Leave that in the comment section below. I would really love to hear your guys' experiences and what your favorite part about those experiences was. Now, onto the deck. Like I said, this is around Allergy, Panic, Vileplume, and really this deck idea is not my own. I will 100% admit that. I was perusing the, I think it was PokeBeach forums the other day, and found an idea for this deck and decided to look into it and thought it was really cool. Now, this is not centered around a specific Pokemon, well, besides the Allergy, Panic, Vileplume, but instead a whole heap of Pokemon. It's basically an Allergy Panic toolbox, which I'm sure you saw by the thumbnail. Yes, I make my thumbnails in advance, don't worry about it. But either way, I looked into the deck, and the more I looked into it, the more I was intrigued and the cooler of an idea I thought it was, so I decided that, you know what? Screw it, let's just go ahead and try this deck and bring a deck video for you guys. Now, basically, the whole idea is that weaknesses hit for 4 times instead of 2 times. Well, I mean, that applies for everybody, but usually you'll be using whichever Pokemon hits for weakness against your opponent. And the idea is you put in a bunch of attackers that can hit 30 damage or around 30 damage for 1 energy, slap a muscle band onto those guys, and then with the 4 times instead of the 2 times weakness, you're all of a sudden hitting for 200 damage for a single energy. That is absolutely unreal. That's ridiculous. And basically is the whole premise of this deck, is just go with the Pokemon that hits your opponent super effectively, slap a muscle band, and just go to town one-shotting all their EXs for 1 energy. So that's the premise of the deck, and then along with that, we have a bunch of Pokemon of different types that can attack for a single energy to support it. Starting off, we have the Shaymins. I mean, Shaymins aren't attacking, but they are great for draw support. Playing those down on the bench, trying to get a first turn Vileplume and a first turn attack. This deck is more than capable of getting 200 damage off turn 1 in the right scenario, if you're able to get a Vileplume up and then an attacker with a Muscle Band and a Rainbow Energy, of course. But either way, Shaymin is great for that draw support. As for the rest of the Pokemon, we are running 1 Yveltal for the Oblivion Wing. That's basically just our dark coverage. Slap a Muscle Band, it hits 50, which allows you to hit that magic 200 with Allergy Panic. You won't be able to use the effect of Oblivion Wing at all, but I mean, that's really kind of beside the point, just because you have the 50 damage you need. As for the fighting Pokemon, we're running Zygarde EX, and this honestly is completely up to you. Lucario works well here, Landorus works well here. Again, completely up to you what Pokemon you wanted to put in there. I just decided to throw Zygarde EX in this build just because Lance Pulse, I mean, not really. I mean, Lance Pulse is going to hit for 40 damage if you're able to get up a Forested Giant Plants, which you usually will if you're starting to attack already, or if you're attacking for the damage that you want to. So Lance Pulse will be hitting that magic 40 and then 60 with the Muscle Band. And then also I chose Zygarde EX just because it's a little bit bulkier with 190 HP. Definitely try Landorus and Lucario in this spot, and then let me know which one works better for you. As for the fighting Pokemon, we're running a Heatmore, Reinforced Flames. If this Pokemon has a Pokemon Tool card attached to it, it does 20 more damage. So automatically hitting that magic 40, or actually the magic number is 30, and then with Muscle Band it's 50. But if you slap a Muscle Band onto this guy, it's going to be hitting for 60. Again, another magic number. And then we are running a 2-2 of Joltik and Galvantula. This is the only Pokemon besides Shaymin and the Vileplume line that we were running multiple of, just because Galvantula has the double threat attack. This attack does 30 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon, apply weakness and resistance. If you get Allergy Panic up, this thing can snipe Shaymin, like single-handedly, one-shot a Shaymin on the bench with a double threat, and honestly, that is invaluable in this deck, and is why we are running 2 of these guys, just to take Shaymin prizes on the bench, deter your opponent from playing those down, all of that stuff. Then we are running 2-2-2 of Oddish, Gloom, and Vileplume, just because this is the main function of this deck. Oh, and by the way, sorry, one more thing I forgot to mention about Galvantula is it can still hit that magic 30, because Electro Web can attack the defending Pokemon and hit for 30 damage, and with the magic... And with the Muscle Band, hit the magic 50, which with Allergy Panic hits for 200 damage. And then also Galvantula covers not only grass, but lightning as well. So really, Galvantula is just probably the main attacker of this deck. I mean, it's absolutely incredible with double thread, one-shotting Shaymins on the bench, Electro Web still being able to do what this deck is designed around. So I cannot speak highly enough of Galvantula in this deck, and I highly recommend that if you're going to replace Pokemon, do not replace Galvantula. Do not replace it at all. This guy is just way too good in this deck when combined with Allergy Panic. And then, like I said, running the 2-2-2 of Oddish, Gloom, and Vileplume. Running 1 Jirachi as our Steel type. Now, you can definitely run like Cobaline, because it does hit the 30 damage for 1 energy and discard a special energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. But I don't know, I kind of like Jirachi just because of the Stardust special effect. I know Stardust looks like a weaker, what is it, like Righteous Edge or something like that. It's some attack that Cobalion has. I don't remember exactly what it's called. I think it's Righteous Edge, but I'm not sure. Hits for 30 for 1 energy. Stardust does 10 for 1 energy, and is in both are discard a special energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon. Well, Stardust also has the added ability to prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to Jirachi next turn, if you discard a special energy from your opponent. So Jirachi is still very nice. And then also with a Muscle Band, this guy can hit 120 for a single energy and then also be immune next turn. So that's why Jirachi is in here over Cobaline. However, that is completely up to you guys. I personally just prefer Jirachi in this spot. 1 Mew for, well, I mean, you could definitely run Mew EX in this spot if you wanted a little bit more longevity, as opposed with 120 HP as opposed to the 50 HP. You could also run like X-Ball Mewtwo, the damage change Mewtwo. However, I prefer Mew because of the free retreat. That is honestly the whole reason I prefer Mew in this spot, is just because of the free retreat. However, I highly recommend trying out damage change Mewtwo, or even Versatile, or the Versatile Mew EX. In that spot, this is just my personal opinion, and is something you can definitely try out on your own. And then finally, for the last Pokemon, we have a water Pokemon, and that is Greninja EX. You never see this guy in any decks at all. That's because it's not very good. However, in this deck, it is awesome. Sharpshooting, this attack does 30 damage to 1 of your opponent's Pokemon, and you don't apply weakness and resistance for bench Pokemon. However, you do for active, meaning if you slap a Muscle Band, you're hitting that magic 200 with a water Pokemon. So this is the line of Pokemon that we are running in this deck. It's very, I don't know, it's kind of clunky. I'll be honest, this deck is kind of clunky, but if you can get it set up, it works really, really well, and is so awesome to be hitting for 200 damage for a single energy. And then I realized that I'm saying that, but I haven't even gotten to the items yet. We're running 2 Battle Compressor. The combination of Battle Compressor and Revitalizer, Battle Compressor VS Seeker, Battle Compressor, and Puzzle of Time. Just way too good to pass up in this deck. And it also gets rid of the basic Pokemon that you don't need once you see the matchup, so you don't have to worry about drawing into those guys later in the game. Running 1 Computer Search just to guaranteed get whatever we want from the deck, as long as it's not prized, obviously. at the cost of discarding a couple cards. But Computer Search is that final puzzle piece we need in order to be able to get an Allergy Panic and an attack turn 1. And basically, Computer Search is just way better than any other option in this deck. 2 Level Ball to not only search out Oddish and Gloom, but if you need, search out like Joltik, Galvantula, Jirachi, Mew. All of those guys can be sought out with Level Ball. However, usually you're going to want to grab an Oddish or a Gloom depending on your situation. 4 Puzzle of Time. Save these for the end of the game. I cannot stress that enough. You definitely want to save these for later in the game when you need to grab that extra muscle band from the discard pile or that rainbow energy or something else. They definitely can be used early game to help set up well, but try to save them for late game as that's when you'll need them the most. They are just invaluable in this deck in getting back resources. 1 Revitalizer to grab back some of the Oddish Vileplume line, and then also Galvantula if you really need it. 1 Sacred Ash, put some Pokemon back in our deck that we discarded. 1 Special Charge to put back the Rainbow Energy. We're only running 4 of these guys, so if we have to discard them, then we are kind of up a creek without a paddle, so Special Charge is needed to put those guys back in the deck. 1 Startling Megaphone to get rid of things like Fighting Fury Belt and other things like that that can ruin the math. 4 Ultra Ball to guarantee get everything out. 4 VS Seeker to reuse all of our supporters. Then as for the supporters, we have 2-3 of N and Juniper as the draw support. 1 Hex Maniac to shut down our opponent for next turn. Need to be careful about that, because if you play it, Allergy Panic will not be in effect and will not be able to get you those one-shots that you definitely need. 1 Lysander to bring something out. Lysander's just way too good. 1 Ninja Boy, because if you start with like Zygarde or something like that, it's way too bulky to try to manually retreat. We run Float Stones, but you don't necessarily want to waste a Float Stone on the Zygarde, so just play Ninja Boy, get the basic Pokemon that you want into the active spot and put the Zygarde back in the deck, or whatever Pokemon you start with that you don't want there. And then 1 Teammates, when your Pokemon gets knocked out, you can just search for another Muscle Band and another Rainbow Energy or whatever else you need. Very, very good in this deck. Running 3 Forest Giant Plants to help get a turn 1 Vileplume. This does not work on Galvantula. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. Running 2 Float Stones for our Vileplume, like I said. 2 Muscle Band to increase the magic numbers and hit the magic 50. That will get us 1-shot, 1-hit knockouts on EXs. And then 4 Rainbow Energy to be able to use whatever attack we want with our Pokemon at the cost of putting a single damage counter on them. So yeah, this deck runs a ton of different cards and is kind of clunky, but when you can get it going, it is really, really fun. And I'm done rambling. Let's just go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Nikoj with, oh boy, this looks like a Trevenant, and this looks like a Trevenant break deck based on the Metal and the Psychic and the Normal, so this could be interesting. We do get to go first, luckily, meaning we will not get locked out of items immediately, and oh, that is beautiful. Start with the Yveltal, start with an Ultra Ball, Forest of Giant Plants, Computer Search. This is honestly everything I could have possibly wanted in a first turn. So if I can get my Yveltal up and attacking, Trevenant Break will not be able to get things going quickly enough in order to prevent my Oblivion Wing from just one-shotting literally everything they have. And never mind, this is a Mega Alakazam deck. That's interesting. Well, darn it. Now I don't want Yveltal to be my starter. So what I am going to do, Ultra Ball. I hate to do this, but I'm getting... Okay, so I'm getting rid of a Float Stone and a Zygarde. I mean, I didn't want to get rid of that extra Float Stone just because that could be a problem, but I'm immediately... Could grab an Oddish. I think I just want to grab a Shaymin at this point. Go ahead and play Float Stone onto Yveltal just so I can retreat into my Mew when I need to. Go ahead and Shaymin. Get 4 more cards. Well, there's the Oddish. Good thing I didn't Computer Search for it, but I am going ahead and Computer Search, get rid of the N and the Hex Maniac to grab probably the... Yeah, I think the Gloom, just because I need to get that thing set up as quickly as possible. I can get the Mew really at any time, and then I'm just going to Juniper away the rest of my hand. Double Puzzle and the Mew. That is gorgeous. And then this is the combination I was talking about. Let's play the Muscle Band onto the Mew. What I can do for next turn... let's see, so I have... Okay, that's in there. So let's go ahead and Battle Compressor. Get rid of a Shaymin, a Vileplume, and Heatmore, maybe? Yeah, let's go ahead and get rid of those guys. And you might be thinking, wait, why are you getting rid of those? Because we can double puzzle, grab the Vileplume and the Shaymin both. Should I have grabbed the Float Stone? it's fine. Whatever. We'll just go for it. If it ends badly, it ends badly. Then let's go ahead and Shaymin, get 4 more cards in our hand. And honestly, if my opponent doesn't get much else set up, and oh, that's gorgeous. I mean, having to get rid of the Puzzle of Time won't be gorgeous, but getting the Rainbow Energy, having free retreat on the Evil Tall, honestly, that's just as good of a turn as I could hope for. And if I need to really search for that other Puzzle of Time, I don't want to get rid of it right now. But if I do need to, I can just Ultra Ball for yet another Shaymin and go from there. My opponent, so Alakazam bats. I'm not sure what the Steel type is. I mean, it could be Jirachi. I mean, that's usually what it is. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So my opponent is just going to grab Jirachi. I really hope he doesn't grab an N. I kind of just hope that he grabs like a Juniper or a Sycamore or something like that, because I really do like my hand. Although admittedly, okay, so yeah, there's the Sycamore. Although admittedly, if my opponent did end me, then I would still have my puzzle back in the deck, although I wouldn't have the guaranteed Rainbow Energy that I have in my hand. And honestly, this... kind of wish I didn't discard the Heat more now because of the Jirachi, but I mean, it happens. I should still be okay. My opponent is going to go ahead and Ultra Ball. What's he going to grab? I mean, he plays a Spirit Link down. I mean, he could grab a Shaymin to get more cards is my guess, at which point, I mean, I can just start sniping things with Galvantula onto the bench of the Shaymin and the Zubat, Crobat, Golbat, whatever they are. I'm interested what my opponent is going to grab with his Ultra Ball. I would think a Shaymin. No, he just grabs Mega Alakazam. And because he didn't disrupt my hand, I'm immediately going to be able to knock this guy out. That's actually really gorgeous. That's awesome. So let's go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of the Force Giant Plants, don't need that anymore, and the Sacred Ash. Honestly, I just don't need it all. Let's grab the Shaymin, go ahead, play the Rainbow down onto the Mew. I don't want to get rid of my Puzzle of Time. I don't want to get rid of that because that's the only one I have left. And okay, I just get a Muscle Band and another Rainbow Energy. Screw it, I'm just going to rearrange the top 3 cards in my deck. Let's go ahead and grab the N. Yeah, just go ahead and do that. That way I can discard that with a Juniper next turn. And then retreat into my Mew. And I'm glad I have the Yveltal down because I can go for the Oblivion Wing. And that 30 damage Oblivion Wing with the Muscle Band turned into 200 damage, one-shotting an Alakazam EX. And that is exactly how this deck is supposed to work. I do draw into a Greninja, and it doesn't even matter because my opponent just goes ahead and forfeits. Honestly, like, he had 3 cards. I knew one of them was a Mega Alakazam. And yeah, that was just so ridiculously beautiful. It's exactly how this deck is supposed to work. You get the Vileplume set up, slap a Muscle Band onto something that hits 30 for a single energy, and then just proceed to knock out whatever your opponent's Pokemon is that they have out and just go based on type advantages. That's really what this deck is all about. Just using type to our advantage and using weakness to be able to one-shot things for a single energy. So yeah, great first match, although that was a little too quick. I'm going to go ahead and try to find one more with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against Leo Azul 7 with it looks like a Volcanion deck based on the Fire, Water, and Normal. So this means that Greninja is, well, should put in an absolute crap ton of work just being able to one-shot all of those guys, and hopefully quicker than my opponent's able to set up. And then, well, I mean, I start with a good hand, but wait, what? Fire Energy and Octillery, so... okay, so I mean, it still might be Volcanion plus Octillery. Maybe my opponent doesn't have access to Shaymin or something, and I do start out with a Joltik, and oh boy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we might be getting donked. This looks bad. I mean, at least Joltik has the free retreat, so it's not the end of the world, and it's not the worst thing to have, especially because I will be able to one-shot Octilleries on my opponent's bench if I can get a Vileplume up. And wait, this is a Charizard. What? I don't even know what my opponent's running. Could be Mega Charizard Remoraid, which would be kind of cool. He does just attach a Burning Energy. And at least this is the Charizard that can't Wing Attack. This one would need 4 energy in order to be able to attack, which would be very bad news for my Joltik. And oh crap. Well, I don't have anything, so just going to go ahead and Lysander in the Remoraid. Call it a turn. I mean, I want to save my Forest of Giant Plants for when I actually need it. And if my opponent has like a Switch and Blacksmith and then an attachment, he can win. But no, he's running Water Energy too. I honestly have no idea what my opponent is running at this point. even gets an Octillery up, so this is looking bleak, to say the least. Because now the Octillery is able to Abyssal Hand, get him another card, and I am sitting on a Target Whistle and teammates and stuff like that, and yeah, I mean, this is a different iteration of the deck. You might notice the Target Whistle, which was not in the previous version, which was not in the one that I showed you at the deck video. There's multiple versions of this deck that were on PokeBeach, and I encourage you guys to look at all of those and try them out. I just decided to go with a little bit of a different iteration right now, and okay, my opponent plays down a Shaymin. Well, if I can survive the turn and somehow get another Pokemon down, I have 3 prizes just waiting for me on my opponent's bench with Double Threat from Galvantula, so honestly, I mean, I'm still in a very bad position and could potentially lose, but if my opponent doesn't have the cards necessary to attack, and oh, he gets an end. Please, please, please play the end. Please get me a... Nope, never mind, he just Stokes. Well, nothing we can do about that. Does get Tails, so that's nice for us, and... oh boy. Okay, so I'm about to Shaymin for 2 cards. And let's hope that those are a heck of a 2 cards. Oh, goody. Well, okay, I can work with this. Let's go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of the teammates. And the Target Whistle, I mean, I know that can be used for Shaymin later, but honestly, at this point, I just need to get as much out as possible, get those going as quickly as possible. And, okay, please play the Shaymin down. Don't time out, please. Okay, thank you. And hopefully I can get something else I can work with and not just... well, okay, so have to hope that my opponent doesn't get anything else. And let's go ahead and Double Thread onto the Shaymin and the Octillery, hit them both for weakness, set them up for knockouts next turn, and be able to take 3 prizes. And if I had a Vileplume up, both of those guys would be knocked out, but this is the danger of this deck. It is pretty clunky sometimes, and we see a Glaceon. Will not be a problem, just means that I have to get my Jirachi up and going, be able to just hit that thing. And we see a Flare Command Pyro, so I think, and a Houndoom. So this looks, I don't even know what my opponent is running, honestly. I think it's just a deck with a bunch of fire and water Pokemon and a bunch of different energies. So I apologize. This match probably won't be the most competitive at all. My opponent does Stoke, so he will get a ton of energy. And I'm going to want to get my Greninja up and going pretty quickly, because this Charizard, despite my opponent just running a bunch of random Pokemon in his deck, this Charizard's starting to look like a threat. And oh, thank you, Lord. Well, first things first, go ahead and Startling Megaphone, because I'm going to be discarding that thing anyway. Juniper, get 7 more cards, see what else I can work with, and there is the Greninja. That is what I like to see. Let's go ahead and play that down right there. And honestly, even though my hand isn't the best, I can still take 3 prizes this turn. But first thing, let's just go ahead and discard Jirachi, Zygarde, and probably my other Battle Compressor, just because I don't think I'll need that. And I mean, Glaceon honestly isn't a threat at all. Just because, I mean, it's... I know I said that I want Jirachi for Glaceon, but that thing's not a threat because I don't run really any evolution attackers besides Galvantula. And you know what Galvantula did? He just took 3 prizes off of my opponent's 2 benched Pokemon. 1 Shaymin and 1 Octillery. And I mean, I even get a pretty solid hand for next turn if I need it. So, in a pretty good position. My opponent does play the Regice down. Well, okay. Looks like I'm going to want... looks like I'm going to want my... whatchamacallit, I'm going to want my Jirachi to be able to start taking that thing out. And what's cool is Jirachi with a Muscle Band one-shots a Regice. I know that that seems weird, but that 10 damage turns into 30 times 4 turns into 120. So a Jirachi with a Muscle Band one-shots a Regice. Just let that sink in for a second. Like, that's... Stardust is one-shotting something. That never, ever happens. My opponent is... okay, just gonna Lysander. I wonder what he's gonna bring. Or I guess he already... oh, okay, he already used his supporter for the turn. He's just gonna Fire Blast my Galvantula. I do... okay, so I need quite a bit this turn, and to be able to knock out this Charizard, so... well, let's hope I can get it. I do have the Greninja, I have the Level Ball, I have my Force of Giant Plants in play, and that is what I am talking about, Willis. Alright. Draw the second of the double puzzle off of the top of the deck, and that is just ridiculously gorgeous. So let's go ahead and play the Oddish down here. I think... what do I want to grab out of my discard pile? So I think a level ball for a Gloom, obviously, first of all. And then... do I want to grab the Jirachi as well? I might want to for the Regi, so let's go ahead and do that. Play 2 copies, grab the Jirachi for sure, and then the level... Or the teammates? Yeah, let's grab the teammates. The level ball only gets me one thing. The teammates gets me the Gloom and something else because I know the Gloom's in my deck. So let's go ahead and grab the Gloom, and then... do I want to grab a Muscle... Yeah, I need the Muscle Band to be able to knock out this Charizard. So Gloom and a Muscle Band with the teammates. I would have liked to have grabbed a VS Seeker, but honestly that is fine. Let's play the Muscle Band onto the Greninja and play the Gloom down, play the Rainbow onto the Jirachi to be able to attack, play the Vileplume down, and once again we are going to one-shot a Pokemon EX with a single energy attack just because of Allergy Panic, and this is exactly how this deck is supposed to work. So, I mean, again, I know I'm saying this a bunch of times. I apologize that this match isn't turning out to be the most competitive, but honestly, this is exactly how this deck is supposed to work, and I cannot pass up the opportunity to show the deck working in such a beautiful way. I mean, I used Galvantula to take out Shaymin and Octillery. I used Greninja to take out a Charizard, and now I'm about to use a Jirachi to start taking out a Regice, and if I can get a Muscle Band, then I just win. I just win at this point if I can get a Muscle Band somehow through, like, computer search or something like that, but... Yeah, this is... I mean, this is beautiful. This is exactly how the deck is supposed to work, and normally you're only attacking with one Pokemon just because generally decks are centered around a Pokemon with a single weakness and occasionally 2, maybe 3, rarely 3. But this deck my opponent's running, while it is random, it's actually working out pretty well for him because he was able to get a Charizard powered up and now he has a Regice powered up, which is a little bit weird and kind of scary for me. But I mean, either way, my opponent's deck is working and we have a bunch of weaknesses that we are trying to hit for, and we're just showing off every single Pokemon that we have in this deck, hitting my opponent for weakness, and yeah, this is going beautifully, and I'm very, very happy. My opponent, honestly, I'm not sure what he's doing, and also, actually, if I can get a Lysander, then I win too, because I can take out that Litleo on the bench, or even for style points, I can Lysander in the Houndoom and one-shot that thing as well, so... Not sure. Okay, my opponent will hit me for a Resistance Blizzard this turn, meaning that Greninja cannot hit the Regice for 50 damage, but it's not a big deal anyway. I'm just going to go into my Jirachi and start hitting that thing, and I get a Float Stone. Well, not what I wanted, but at this point I can keep Jirachi from being damaged next turn. Just, I think I'll have to manually retreat my Greninja and go from there. Could play the Hex Maniac, but no, that'd be bad because I want my Allergy Panic. Let's just go ahead, and I could Sharpshoot the Litleo, just slowly whittle that thing down. But my best play at this point is to just go ahead and start us 3-hit KO the Regice instead of a 6-hit KO, which it normally is. Thank you, Vileplume. And yeah, my Jirachi's now immune, and I bought myself another turn to try to draw into that Muscle Band. My opponent just attaches another DCE, protects himself with Resistance Blizzard. I think that was a mistake, because now he won't be able to attack, and I'm just going to Hex Maniac. I know that was dumb because I wouldn't be able to two-shot the Regice anymore, but honestly, I just played that to play it, and it ended up going well for me because my opponent just concedes the match, and we are able to pull it out with the Allergy Panic deck, and we're able to use 3 different attackers, hit for a bunch of damage for a single energy, and honestly, I know that wasn't the most competitive match in the end, and I apologize for that, but the deck just worked so beautifully that I could not pass up this opportunity to showcase this deck and how it's supposed to work. So thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.